Hello everybody and welcome back. Tonight we go to High Wycombe and a gentleman called Mark Thompson who actually contacted Sasquatch Chronicles. This didn't come into myself. And he said, "My name is Mark Thompson and I now live in New Zealand, but I originally lived in England near London in a town called High Wycombe. My encounter involves a legendary green man. And the green man is a legend of old and dates back thousands of years, just like the Native American tales of Sasquatch. In my case, I grew up next to the Chiltern Hills, which spans across the southwest of London to the northwest. And it's quite a dense wooded area and has many legends of the Green Man down there, and Herne the Hunter, and Jack of the Green, and all the other names that people call him. And I was about 6 years old when I had my encounter. It happened behind my house where there was a wooded area that led out of town towards the countryside. I was with some older boys who were carrying a ladder to erect a swing on a tree in the middle of a wooded area, and there was a meadow full of grass, but it was like a clearing within the woods. Once we'd erected the swing and had goofed around for a bit, the bigger boys had decided it was time to head home, and I was the last one to leave. I can remember following the bigger boys at a distance, maybe about 20 yards ahead of me, and I don't know what made me stop and look to my left. But on the edge of the meadow, beside a large tree, there was a huge figure. And I remember craning my neck to look up at this creature's face. Now I estimate it would be around 7 to 8 feet tall in height. And the creature had lots of long, draping hair down its body. And the hair was full of twigs and leaves, almost like a ghillie suit. The face was huge, and it had deep-set eyes, and the long, thin lips were open. And it was smiling at me. Well, I thought it was smiling at me, but the rest of its face wasn't. Now I think it was showing me its teeth. I was literally 10 feet away from this thing, and I ran. I ran as fast as I could and caught the bigger boys. By this time they were nearing the edge of the woods, and I've never told anybody about this sighting. For years afterwards I'd have nightmares about this creature coming through the woods, coming to get me, or coming into the house and trying to find me. And when I laid on my pillow, my heartbeat would sound like footsteps coming to get me. It really did shake me up, I'll be honest. And I know that some other people have seen this creature, but because it's been at night, they've mistaken it for a ghost. Thanks, Mark. Now, just a short walk away from this encounter that Mark had, there's a gentleman who got in touch with me, and he's a British big cat researcher, and he said, "I've camped out in many places overnight, and I've spent days out in the woods in search of British large cats, and I know the diverse habitats out there in the UK. I'm used to bushcrafting, and I'm used to nature's like structures and noises and the things that you find, but I cannot explain what happened that night. I'm curious because about 5 months ago I had a really scary experience on solo wild camping over some baits that I'd left out for cats in the valley not too far from High Wycombe, trying to film big cats. I'd set all this up earlier and was just waiting in the hope of luring something in. I had settled down at camp by the fire and I was sat quietly, and I noticed I wasn't alone anymore. At first I sensed it, but after a while it seemed like something would approach me to within about 20 metres of the firelight and go back again. I could hear breaking sticks and ground movement, and I actually thought something was throwing things in my direction. It really sounded like something was throwing branches to get my attention, and wherever it was, it stayed out of sight of the fire. There were no lights, and when I shined my torch to the area I thought the sticks were being thrown from, I couldn't see anything. It was very strange, and I thought at first somebody was having me on. It's a long walk there and back for a prank, but I was certain someone was there, and I actually would shout out to it and bark at it with my best dog impression. I kept thinking it was poachers, to be honest. Eventually it all stopped and went quiet, so I settled down for the night. Later that night I heard a huge bang and a crash, and I thought it was a gunshot. But thinking about it now, it was tree limbs being whacked against a tree. I got up and I ran out of there. I went back to get my stuff the next day, and the camp was fine and nothing was touched. And that's not the only strange account in this area. not too far away, we have the Ashbridge Wood Growls. That happened in 2015. And that's somebody who was walking round the Ashbridge Woods in Herefordshire. I had something thrown at me, like a fir cone, and then I heard a low growling and just felt like something was watching me. I'm condensing this. I felt being watched before, and I've seen shadows, which, with my eyes, I'm not worried about, but at least two of the things I saw scared me. There was a tree in the pathway which seemed to have been placed, but there was no tyre tracks or any evidence of a car pulling it there, or no drag marks or anything seen, and I think it was placed to block the path. And we also have, not too far away, just one second when I get it, pull it up, we have the Henley Invisible Tree snapper, if you remember, from, I think it was 2011, let me just check. I'm not too sure, but it's a gentleman who's working in Henley, and he reports that he's staying in a caravan, and he hears lots of, sorry, tea time-ish, lots of crashing and banging and smashing up in the trees, and he can actually see the movement in the trees as whatever it is he describes as incredibly large moving through those trees, but couldn't see exactly what it was he that was making the noise. Yeah, he said it took place about 15 years ago, so, you know, not that long, about 2003. And it says, to save money, we would camp or stay on the pub job site. That was even better, it cuts out the travel to and fro. On this occasion, I'm down there on my own. Now, the location is on the edge of the village called Stoke Row, not too far from Henley. It's actually a gentleman reporting on his friend and his friends down there on his own. And it was around 5 or 6 p.m. So he's saying that he hears that much racket that he goes out to have a look. And as he approached the woods, he could hear what sounded like large limbs being snapped up in the canopy above him. Even more curious now, not being able to see the source of the sounds, he headed straight into the woods to find out what was going on. At this point, the sounds of breaking branches seemed to have moved off through the trees away from him, and he was never able to see what was there. He said it was as if something he couldn't see was moving through the canopy with ease and moving away from him whilst all the time being unseen. And then we have an account that I'm going to bring to you in a couple of weeks, which is the Compton Birch creature sighting, and that was January 2016. And that's a gentleman out with a remote control car that sees something in the woods. So I will bring that one to you, because that's quite a lot of accounts for just the one report. And that is not too far from the area where Mike the Werewolf Guy does his research. So you never know, there might be another account coming out of there very soon, hopefully. But until next time, thank you very much for tuning in, and remember, do it your own way. Good night.